Welcome back. Over the past 9 meditations, we've considered the nature and impact of the priesthood of Christ. As our high priest, he offered on our behalf the ultimate sin sacrifice, himself, and now to make intercession for us to God the Father. When we call upon his name for salvation, we receive the adoption of God to be called his children. As well, we are called to be joint heirs with Christ and to join him in his ministry. We're told by Peter that when we are saved, we actually become, in Christ, a special priesthood. We want to read from 1 Peter chapter 2, beginning at verse 4. Coming to him, that is Christ, as to a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by God, and precious, you also, as living stones, are being built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, who once were not a people, but now are the people of God, who had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Oh, brethren, when we come to Christ, we become part of something much bigger than ourselves. We become part of, quote, a chosen generation. This is that generation we talked about when we considered Psalm 24 back in meditations number 300 and 301. The generation of those who seek the face of the God of Jacob. We become as well a part of a royal priesthood. Remember from 6 devotions ago that there were 3 primary offices for Israel: the prophet, the priest, and the king. The priest, though, was from the lineage of Levi, specifically the seed of Aaron, and the king was from the lineage of Judah, specifically the seed of David. The priest could be a prophet, but he couldn't be the king. The king could be a prophet, but he couldn't be a priest. But here we are called a royal priesthood, because our priesthood is after the order of Jesus, who is the only one who fulfilled the offices of king and priest, because he was of the order and nature of the priesthood of Melchizedek, who was the king of Salem. We are then to be a holy nation and God's own special people. We are to be this royal priesthood in order that we might offer up spiritual sacrifices which are acceptable to God, and that we may proclaim the praises of him who called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. As followers of Jesus, we ought to be seeking to represent God to man and man to God in the office of a priest. That's what a priest would do. A priest would mediate between man and God and man. As Jesus is our intercessor, so we ought to be seeking to intercede on behalf of one another, and specifically on behalf of those who don't know him. We ought to be then also seeking to declare the praise of him who redeemed us to himself to those who need to hear it, telling them what Jesus has done for us. Brethren, do you see yourself? Do you understand the nature of your calling and who you are in Christ? That as you are in this world, as we see in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 as well, we are called to be ambassadors. We are called to be his representatives. Specifically here, we're told that we are a royal priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices to God, which are acceptable to God. Brethren, I challenge you to take your office seriously, to seek to intercede on behalf of the lost, bringing them to the throne of grace, to intercede on behalf of one another, but then also to go with the word of grace, which you have been given, just as Christ brought it to us, that we would bring it to our fellow man, that we might be able to bring them to the throne of grace as a spiritual sacrifice, in which he will be well pleased. For God desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. Brethren, pray, and then have a blessed day.